I used to laugh about my husband. Not kindly, not nervously. I laughed the way someone laughs when they're terrified of looking too closely at the truth. I told my friends he was probably gay, that he didn't want me, that he didn't want anyone. I said it because it was easier than admitting I didn't know how to be loved quietly. Then one night, masked men broke into our penthouse, and I finally learned the real reason he never reacted to my cruelty. My husband wasn't harmless. He was hiding, and I was the last person on earth he ever wanted to scare. His name is Elias Thorne. To the world, he's a billionaire. Quiet, private, almost invisible. To me, he was a piece of furniture, or at least that was who I turned him into. Every morning was the same. He woke before me, made my coffee, folded my napkin perfectly. Eggs, always eggs. He never missed a detail. And every morning, I barely looked at him. I scrolled through my phone, checked emails, complained about work. He stood there silently, making me slightly irritated. That morning, I said it again, out loud. To be honest, I told my best friend Maya, I don't even think my husband wants women at all. She laughed too easily. Maybe he's just wired differently, she said. I watched Elias turn to the sink. I mean it, I added. He doesn't chase. He doesn't touch. He doesn't even get jealous. The truth was simple. I didn't feel wanted. And instead of admitting that, I turned it into mockery. That night was the gala, the most important night of my career. My law firm was on the edge of its biggest expansion ever, and standing at the center of it all was my ex-fiancé, Julian Creed, the man who once broke me, the man I never fully escaped. Julian walked in like he owned the building, or maybe he already did. Investors gravitated to him. Board members laughed at his jokes. Security leaned subtly toward him. Power does that to people. Elias stood at the back of the room with a glass of water. Silent. Watching. The way he always watched. In the car earlier, he had corrected one line in my legal brief. Just one sentence, and it had saved my entire argument. But still, I ignored his gesture. At the gala, with Julian standing too close, with the room buzzing, with my pride stretched thin, I made the joke. Loud, clear, cruel. You know, I said smiling, sometimes I think my husband might be, well, not into women at all. Laughter exploded, sharp, public, merciless. Julian laughed the hardest. I felt powerful for half a second. Then I saw Elias's face. He didn't react. Not visibly. He just went still. And something in the room shifted. He left early. I told myself I didn't care. I told myself he deserved it. I told myself a lot of lies that night. When I got home, the penthouse was too quiet. The air felt charged. The hallway light was on. The library door was open. Elias never left that door open. I stepped inside and found the room walls of screens, live camera feeds, the lobby, the garage, the street, and then the photos of me, walking into work, leaving restaurants, meeting clients, standing on our balcony. My knees almost gave out. I thought my husband had been spying on me, obsessing over me, stalking me. Then I saw Julian's face appear on one of the screens. A wire transfer flashed beneath it, 7 figures, moving offshore. You weren't supposed to see it like this. A voice behind me spoke quietly. I spun around. My hands were shaking. What is this? He didn't apologize. He didn't soften it. You're being targeted, he said. Julian is laundering money through shell investments. He's trying to take your firm. I laughed, a short, broken sound. No, you're lying. He handed me a folder. Documents, bank records, shell companies, roots of money too clean to be fake. You've been watching him? I asked. I've been protecting you, he said. Something cracked in my chest. Not broke. Cracked. You let me think you are nothing, I said quietly. You let me humiliate you. He looked at me then. Really looked. I didn't stay small because you needed power, he said. I stayed small because I was afraid that if you saw the real me too soon, you'd leave. The truth hit harder than anger. And for the record, he added, voice low, I have wanted you every single day. Wanting you was never the problem. Knowing what that desire could do, that was the part that scared me. That night, he told me everything. The consultancy, the defense contracts, the syndicate Julian was tied to, the threats moving quietly behind my career. You made me a joke, he said. And I stayed quiet anyway because it was what you felt you needed. I bowed my head shamefully and I tried to apologize. But he left. 2 days later, Julian made his move. Publicly. During the board vote. He slid the contract across the table. My firm, my life, one signature away from belonging to him. The room held its breath. I stood. For once, my hands were steady, and for the first time in a very long time. I didn't look for approval. The room stayed silent after I stood. My heart was loud. My hands were steady. For the first time, I didn't look at Julian. I looked at Elias. Just once. Not for permission. For grounding. Then I spoke. I'm not signing anything today. A ripple moved through the boardroom. Julian smiled like I had amused him. Of course you aren't. Not yet, he said easily. You've always liked to pretend you were in control. The meeting adjourned in a fog of tension. Outside, the sun looked too normal for the kind of storm that had just entered my life. Back in the car, Elias drove in silence, not sulking, thinking. Your firm will feel pressure by tonight, he said calmly. He won't wait. He wants to break me before I gather defenses, I said. Yes. We didn't say anything else. By the time we reached the penthouse, 3 clients had already pulled out. By evening, 5 more followed. By night, the financial news cycle had picked up rumors of instability around my firm. Julian wasn't just threatening me. He was isolating me. The next morning, Maya stormed into my office with her phone in her hand. What is happening? She demanded. Your firm is all over investor chat rooms. Julian is squeezing us, I said. She stared at me. And your husband? He's handling it, I replied. There was a beat. Then the look appeared in her eyes. That old doubt. Do you really trust him now? She asked. I trust what I've seen, I replied. That afternoon, the pressure became physical. Reporters outside the building, clients canceling meetings, regulators requesting audits. And through all of it, Elias remained. Steady. Not rushed. Not shaken. He worked at the dining table with his laptop open, tracking money, mapping shell accounts, anticipating Julian's moves before they happened. For the first time in years, I watched him closely. The way he focused. The way his jaw tightened when he concentrated. The way restraint lived in every movement he made. Something unfamiliar pulled low in my stomach. Not fear. Something warmer. That night, as the city hummed below us, I leaned against the balcony railing beside him. You could have walked away from all of this, I said. I know, he replied. Why didn't you? He didn't answer right away. Then quietly, "Because leaving you unprotected felt worse than anything Julian could do to me." The words settled into my chest and stayed there. 2 days later, Julian sent his invitation. A private dinner at a waterfront restaurant. Neutral ground. Public enough to seem safe. Private enough to threaten everything. "He wants to rattle you," Elias said. "I won't go alone," I replied. His eyes lifted to mine. "I wouldn't let you." The restaurant glowed with candlelight and water reflections. Julian stood when I approached. Elias was invisible to him. "Chloe," Julian said smoothly. "You look incredible." Elias pulled my chair out before Julian could reach it. Julian's smile faltered. "So that's how we're playing this," Julian said lightly. "You and your silent guard dog." Elias folded his napkin calmly. "I'm not silent," he said. "I'm observant." Julian turned back to me. "I tried to save you," he said. "Your firm is bleeding out." "The bleeding stops when the predator is removed," I replied. He smirked. My, you've always been good with metaphors." Dinner arrived, wine poured, and then Julian cut into me. "3 of your biggest clients filed termination this morning. Funny how fear spreads when criminal rumors float around." My phone vibrated again, then again. Withdrawals, cancellations, damage. Julian lifted his glass. "You could end this tonight," he said. Elias finally looked directly at him. "You chose the wrong enemy." For the first time, true fear flickered across Julian's face. Just for a heartbeat. That night, the pressure became unbearable. By morning, regulators formally opened inquiries. Partners panicked. Staff whispered. I stood in the middle of it all and held my ground through borrowed calm. Borrowed from the man I used to laugh at. Elias stood behind me that evening as I stared out at the city. "I won't let him burn your life down," he said. "Not our life. Mine." The phrasing broke something open in me. I turned slightly into his touch. Just enough to feel it. For the first time, his nearness didn't feel restrained. It felt chosen. The indictment arrived 2 days later. Sealed. Expedited. Targeted. A legal sledgehammer. If I testified against Elias as a suspicious financial actor, the investigation against my firm would vanish. Julian was offering me freedom for the price of my husband. Maya read the document in silence. "This could save you," she said quietly. "It would destroy him," I replied. She hesitated. "You still don't know who he really is." "I do," I said. She searched my face. "People like him don't love the way we do. They calculate. They control." "He could be all of that," I said softly, "and still be the man who stood between me and 3 armed strangers." Maya left that night without another word. The penthouse felt like a held breath. Every sound carried weight. Every shadow seemed aware. Elias moved through the rooms with quiet precision. Checking exits, reinforcing locks, testing systems I hadn't even known existed. "Tonight," he said, "Julian comes." My stomach tightened. "How can you be sure?" "Men like him don't believe in quiet endings." Hours stretched long and thin. By late evening, the air felt electric. "Whatever happens," Elias said, meeting my eyes, "don't move unless I tell you to." I nodded, not loudly, not fearfully, with focus. At 11:30, the power cut. The city vanished behind black glass. At 11:32, the locks disengaged. The doors shifted. and footsteps entered our home. Glass shattered. The alarm died in a strangled beep. 3 men moved through the smoke of broken security. Elias stepped in front of me instantly. Down. That one word carried everything. I dropped. I watched from the floor as my quiet husband became something else entirely. Efficient, unhesitating, lethal without cruelty. Hands moved, bodies fell. Silence returned in broken pieces. By the end, the men were on the floor. The apartment was torn apart. And I was shaking so hard I could barely breathe. Elias knelt beside me, his hands steady. "Are you hurt?" he asked. I shook my head. For the first time in 2 years, I didn't see a harmless man. I saw the man who had been carrying my life while I mocked him for being gentle. And I finally understood how wrong I had been. For a long time, after the break-in, neither of us spoke. The apartment smelled like broken glass and burned wiring. Smoke drifted lazily through the air like it didn't know what it had just witnessed. Elias stayed kneeling in front of me, waiting. Not rushing, not commanding, waiting. I forced myself to breathe. Once, twice, 3 times. "My legs won't work," I whispered. "They will," he said. "Take your time." That alone nearly broke me. Not the violence, not the danger, not the men on the floor. His patience. He lifted me slowly, like I was something fragile instead of the woman who had spent years cutting him down with words. When my feet touched the carpet, I swayed. His arms came around me instantly. Strong. Unshaking. Real. For the first time in my life, I pressed into a man without fear of losing myself. I pressed into him because I trusted him. Sirens bloomed outside in waves. Red and blue streaked across the ceiling. Julian hadn't sent amateurs. And Elias hadn't needed to rush. Federal agents filled the penthouse within minutes. Commands, radios, boots. Julian didn't arrive with them. His men did, and they talked. Enough. When one of the agents cuffed the last attacker, he looked straight at Elias. "You set this up quietly," the agent said. Elias nodded once. "Yes." That was all. No pride, no performance, just fact. When the apartment finally emptied and the doors closed behind them, silence moved back in carefully, like it wasn't sure if it was welcome anymore. I stood there shaking. Elias removed his jacket and draped it over my shoulders. "You're safe now," he said. Safe. The word felt foreign. I laughed. It came out broken and wet. "You've been doing this the whole time, haven't you?" "Yes." "While I was calling you a furniture?" "Yes." The silence after that was heavy. Not with anger, with truth. We stood there in the ruins of the illusion I had built about him, and about myself. "You could have stopped me," I said. "Any time. You could have shut me down at the gala. You could have exposed everything." "I know. Why didn't you?" He didn't answer immediately. Then quietly, "Because I wanted you to choose me without fear." That did it. I broke. Not loudly, not dramatically. Quietly, like something inside me had finally given up pretending it was unhurt. "I was wrong about you," I said. He shook his head. "You were afraid of me?" he said. "That's different." "I said you didn't want women." His jaw tightened, but his voice stayed calm. "And now you know that was never true." "Yes," I whispered. I stepped closer to him. Slow, careful, as if I wasn't sure yet if I was allowed. "My God," I said quietly. "You wanted me this whole time, didn't you?" "Yes," he said again. Every day. That's not fair, I breathed. No, he agreed. It isn't. I lifted my hand and placed it against his chest. Not hesitantly, not mockingly, not teasing, intentionally. His heart was steady, strong. And suddenly I understood something with an ache so deep it almost hurt to breathe. He had never been indifferent. He had been controlled, and control like that is never empty. It is always full of want. I looked up at him. Why didn't you ever touch me? Because if I touched you without you seeing me clearly, he said, I would have been taking something that wasn't freely given. That shattered the last piece of resistance I had left. I reached for his face. This time, I didn't ask for permission with my eyes. I kissed him. Not softly, not aggressively, honestly. Years of restraint met years of misjudgment in that one moment. There was no hesitation in the way he kissed me back. None. His hand curved into my jaw like it belonged there, like it always had. The world narrowed to breath and heat, and the truth pressed between us. When we parted, the air felt altered, charged, unavoidable. He lifted me without difficulty, not urgently, intentionally. The bedroom door closed behind us. The rest was ours. And for the first time since I'd met him, there was no silence between us at all. The next morning, my phone started buzzing before sunrise. Maya, once, twice, 3 times. Then my group chat exploded. If one thing travels faster than scandal, it's curiosity. I sat up slowly in the bed. Elias was still asleep beside me. One arm draped loosely across my waist like he had always done it. But now it felt different. Now it was chosen, warm, claimed. My phone buzzed again. Maya. What? I answered. There was a pause. Then she said it. Are you alive? Yes. Is Julian in custody? Yes. Another pause. Then quieter. Did you stay with your husband last night? I looked at Elias, at the calm on his face, at the strength in his resting body, at the man I had been cruel to, at the man who had undone me without ever trying to dominate me. Yes, I said. There was a sharp inhale on the other end. Chloe. What? Her voice lowered. You used to say he was gay. I smiled. Slow. Unashamed. I used to be wrong, I said. Silence. Then, softly. Did he? Yes, I said calmly. He did. Another silence. Then she whispered, Changed your mind? I laughed. No, I said. He destroyed the old one. Maya inhaled sharply. Oh my God. I shifted against the pillows. And just so you know, I added evenly, he is the best man I've ever been with. She didn't answer for 3 seconds. Then frantic words burst out. You're serious. Completely. He always was that? Yes. And you missed it? For years, I admitted. Wow, she whispered. Yeah. Later that morning, the rest of the girls joined the chat. Sophia, Nadine, Rhea. Nosy, loyal, relentless. Sophia typed first. So, we hear your husband is not what you advertised. I smiled. Nadine followed. You told us he was gentle and distant. He's still gentle, I replied. Just not distant, Rhea added. You told us he was probably gay. I typed slowly. I was deeply, profoundly mistaken. Sophia sent 3 shocked emojis. Then, so how wrong were you? I stared at the screen, then typed what I had never imagined saying about Elias in a million years. He ruined my opinion of every man I've ever been with. Silence. Then the chat exploded. Laughter, shock, a flood of questions. For the first time, I didn't feel embarrassed. I felt honest. The fallout didn't arrive all at once. It came in waves. Charges against Julian went public. Money laundering, conspiracy, attempted coercion. My firm stabilized within 48 hours. Clients returned slowly. Trust takes longer to rebuild than contracts. But it returned, and my authority stood stronger than ever. Not because Elias stood behind me, but because he stood beside me. Maya came over that afternoon. She stood awkwardly in the doorway, then said it. "I was wrong about you." Elias didn't respond immediately. "You were afraid for her?" he simply said. "Yes," she responded. "I understand," he replied. Then Maya turned to look at me and said, "You look different." "I am," I added. That night, Elias and I stood on the balcony together. The city felt less hostile now, less sharp. "You never fought me for control," I said. "I never wanted to own you," he replied. "I wanted to shield you." "And now?" "Now I trust you to see me clearly." I turned to him. "And what if I never stop being afraid of what you're capable of?" His answer was immediate. "Then you will never stop respecting me." Later, in the kitchen, he folded the napkin again. Same ritual, same precision, different meaning. I watched him do it, not like furniture, not like silence, like loyalty, like patience, like love that never demanded the spotlight. "I used to laugh at you," I said softly. "I know." "I used to feel powerful when you stayed small." "I know." "And now? Now you feel powerful without needing me to disappear." That was the truth. And it hurt. And it healed. All at once. A week later, the world moved on. It always does. Another billionaire filled another headline. Another scandal stole attention. Another villain replaced the last. But our penthouse stayed quiet. Not hiding quiet. Peace quiet. The kind of quiet where nothing is being withheld anymore. Sometimes I still watched Elias when he didn't know. The way he moved through rooms. The way he chose his words carefully. The way his strength never needed permission to exist. One night, I asked him the question that had followed me since the break-in. "Those 2 years you stayed quiet. Was that love?" He didn't answer right away. "It was a choice," he said. "And love is the longest choice a person can make." "And control? Control is the moment love stops listening." We stood there together. No fear, no performance, just two people rebuilt by the same truth. I mocked my husband. I doubted his desire. I mistook his silence for weakness. And in the end, it was his silence that kept me alive long enough to finally understand who he was. So now I leave you with the question that still follows me into sleep. Was his quiet devotion the purest form of love, or the most patient form of control? And if you were in my place, would you truly know the difference?